Good afternoon, educators. Our topic now is about the student learning outcomes, which is highly related for the outcomes-based education. We all know if the students are well informed about what behaviors are expected on them in any course or subject or learning activity, it will give them a definite guide during the learning activity, and therefore with that, we proceed to attain success. Same thing with the teachers who know very well what they wish with their students to demonstrate or to perform. That will be in the best position to align their instructional activities to the desired learning outcomes. In this slide, all the assessment and evaluation activities should always start with the identification and even the clarification of the student learning outcomes. Okay, so this is it. What are student learning outcomes? For the teacher education program, these are the skills, the competencies, and values that the students are expected to demonstrate at the end of every course or subject. And when we talk of competencies, it covers the KSA or the ASK. A stands for attitude or values, S stands for skills, and K stands for knowledge. And there is a need for periodic assessment that will really help the student to determine their own strengths and deficiencies and let them become active participants in outcomes attainment. Now, what are the sources of the expected student learning outcomes? First, of course, will be the institution mission statement. With this, both the public schools and private schools, they have their own school system mission as the source of their learning outcomes. Even with the private schools, whether they are sectarian or non-sectarian, it may be a source from the respective religious schools. But in case non-sectarian, they have their own founder's philosophy. Okay? Now, for the policies on competencies and standards, based on the CMO, we have the trifocalization. For the higher education, we have the CHED. This is the Commission on Higher Educations. And even for DepEd, we have the Department of Education, which covers the basic, the high school and elementary. And of course, with the TESDA, vocational aspect, we have the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. They prescribe the different standards and competencies needed for the good learning or good student learning outcomes. Now, for the expected competencies, it depends on the different professions, businesses, or industry. They should know that our students should know how to adapt with these different professions. And in that case, we have to ensure our graduates that they can perform on the respective workplaces and professions. Now, for for trust and development of goals of the Philippines, with this, we all know that our national government, there should be a useful integration. We can define the identified competencies and expectations from all sectors of education. So that is with the trust and development of goals of the Philippines. They should be vertically aligned. Now, the international trends and development are necessary. We have to consider that in order for us to determine and ensure our graduates that they are globally competitive and internationally recognized with their chosen employment or professional practice abroad. And for the last one, which is the basic general education competencies, very necessary, such as the oral and written communications, the scientific and quantitative reasoning ability, the ability to analyze, to synthesize, and even develop creative solutions, which is necessary for the higher order thinking skills. And of course, the technological competency, which involves the ability to use computer technology in documentation and even presentations. And lastly is the information literacy, which involves the ability to efficiently locate and effectively use information both from print and electronic resources. So again, these are the sources of the student learning outcomes. What about the characteristics of the good student learning outcomes? First and foremost, it should be student-centered. And when we speak of student-centered, it should be in line with the interests of our student. And they have to know it from the simple to more complicated things. Let's say our topic is about the life cycle of the butterfly and how can we make our student give focus on this. It can be done in a different activities, in a different way, like video presentation, a poster presentation, field trip to a garden. They can also submit an essay of the dangers when interrupting the life cycle, and even submission of the proposal to protect the butterflies. So with this, we can say that our student will become more interested and focus on the topic that they are talking about. Now, aside from that, the SLO should be aligned with the program mission statement that has been agreed upon by the program faculty and consultation with the stakeholders like alumni and professionals. We cannot decide by ourselves as teachers, but rather there should be a consultation with our stakeholders. And these stakeholders are those individuals who are interested with our curriculum. Okay. Now, another thing, the good student learning outcomes should be very well understood by both the students and faculty. They should be in agreement on the importance of these competencies which they will cooperatively develop. And there are several steps on how to do it as being suggested here, which form the acronyms heard, HEARED. First, you have to hook the students to the desired learning outcome. They have to know them. Second one, let them explore and experience the supporting student activities like the one that I mentioned a while ago. We have presented several activities there, picture presentation, poster making, and so on and so forth. And let them apply the ideas or knowledge required in contrived, simulated, or real-life situation. Because if there will be no application of learning, no application of ideas, those ideas will be nothing. So from your mind, in putting it into action, into the application as a real-life one. Then let it be refined, rehearse, review the targeted skills and competencies so they can even improve it, no? They can even develop it more. And then try to evaluate the degree of learning outcome or performance. Then from them, we will decide on what action, solution, or creative project that can be applied for their learning outcome. So do not forget the acronym HEARD, to hook, explore and experience, apply, refine, rehearsing and reviewing, evaluating, and decide. Okay. Now another one, it should also include a spectrum of thinking skills from simple to higher order application of knowledge and skills. Going back to the cognitive domain, from the lowest level, which is simply knowledge to remember, it moves going up to the higher order thinking skills, which is creating. So from the level of knowledge up to application, this covered the lower order thinking skills. But once you move to analysis, now the evaluating and synthesis up to creating, that creates now the higher order thinking skills. So when the good SLO, do not stick only with the lower order thinking skills. That is why I am encouraging everyone, every time you are making your student learning outcomes, it should be something with the higher complexity that develops the higher order thinking skills of your student. Let's have an example on this. Okay, can identify. Going back to the life cycle, to identify the stages of the life cycle of a butterfly. And then we can discuss its stage. And then we can apply the concept of the life cycle of the butterfly into another organism. Then try to analyze the changes happening in each stage of the development of a butterfly. And then try to evaluate the completeness of its cycle. That is valuing the importance of the life cycle of butterfly in the ecosystem. And you can create even a short story or a fable about the life cycle of a butterfly. From here, you can see the different levels, from the lowest level to the highest level of complexity. Okay, and lastly, it should be measurable. Measurable in the sense that your competency should be expressed in transitive verbs, something concrete, demonstrable, and observable. You can see the degree. Does it belong to the below basic level, to the basic level, to the proficient or advanced level? Or in other way, it can be starting from the beginner, which is the novice, then moving to the advanced beginner, then being competent, proficient, and expert. So from there, you will see the degree of performance being shown by our students. Okay, so this is it, what the student learning outcomes all about, and I hope you learned something from this discussion. So with that, let's have a good day. Thank you.